Do you want to learn how to raise responsible and resilient kids? Of course you do. Join me on this journey today to figure out what it is that you can do to help. First thing, what we do has impact. As a parent, if we're helicoptering our kids, it kind of complicates the situation. By nagging and hovering over our kids, we wind up telling them that they aren't able to do it themselves. We try to make the world perfect all the time. And when was the last time you had a perfect day? For me, it was a long time ago. My older child got married and it was a perfect day, but that was 2 years ago now. It was crazy. And as we fix things when they go wrong, our kids don't get to understand that things can go wrong. And if we make the world seem like it's perfect all the time, as our kids get older, oftentimes they get big anxiety when they see things aren't going well and they can't handle it themselves. And so they become unresilient. So what are we going to do? Well, as we helicopter too much, we need to talk about first, why do we do that? Because most of us are helicoptering. I'm a recovering helicopter parent. Most of us are helicoptering out of love. But the thing is that oftentimes we're really doing it because we don't trust our kids to get whatever it is done. They become unreliable. We think that they're unreliable and that they have too much work to do. Some of us have kids that have lots of homework, especially in the upper grades. We also realize that we can do it better. I mean, we've been around a while and we've proven that we can get to adult years and we're doing good. So we can always do it better. And some of us wind up leaving the impression on ourselves as well as our kids that they're not smart enough to do it at the time. And maybe it's because they're young, but they wind up sometimes becoming lazy because they know that they either can't do it right or that their parents just don't have confidence in them. And all that helicoptering impacts our kids. And you know what happens? There's an effect. And our kids learn to be unreliable. They learn that if they have too much work, they don't have to do it all by themselves. And they learn that we as parents can do it better than they can. So maybe it's because I'm not smart, and maybe it's because I'm just lazy and I don't want to as a kid. My mom and dad always take care of it, so why should I even bother? So that's kind of tragic. So what are we going to do? We are going to let them start taking ownership and responsibility for things that are theirs. The younger you can do this, the better, and the more often the better as well. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to talk about some areas right now in your home with your elementary school kids, maybe high school kids too, about what it is that they can start taking responsibility for. One thing is that they should be able to set up a work area in your home that is comfortable for them as long as they get their homework done. It could be in the dining room, it could be on the kitchen table, it could be on the floor in the living room or the playroom. It could be anywhere as long as they know that they're capable of doing their homework in that area. They can have different blankets or pillows or whatever. Let them choose and let them take responsibility for creating a work environment that works for them. Next thing, allow them to fill their backpacks. I was just giving this presentation and I asked how many parents had touched their kids' backpack that day. And it was mostly an elementary school audience, and at least half of them had. And the thing is that every time we fill our kids' backpacks with books or lunches or whatever, or we clean out our kids' backpacks, we're basically saying they can't do it themselves, or they don't do it well. It's messy, it's dirty, it's whatever. It's like, not a good idea because it teaches them that it's not their backpack, it's our backpack. So let them fill their own backpacks. They might do it wrong. Let them make and unpack their own lunchboxes. A lot of us, in California at least, you get free school lunch. But most of us, over half the parents that I talk to, pack school lunch for their kids or their kids pack their own. And the idea is that allowing them to take responsibility for packing their lunch is something they need to own. If they're really young in kindergarten or preschool or something, you might be doing things like allowing them to pack the snacks or the fruits that go into their lunchbox. But as they get to third, fourth, and middle school and high school, they should be packing their own lunch. You might not like what they put in there, but in your household, at least have things that you like that could go in there, whether it be, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, they have ingredients for, let them make it themselves and put it in there. They might not do it as well, but they will learn over time to do that. How about them deciding when and where to charge their devices. It's kind of funny how we tend to make sure that because some homework is done on devices in our homes, we want to make sure that those are charged. And we run around our house and say, hey, everybody, let's charge them at night in a certain location or whatever. And it's like, the thing is that that's basically telling them that they don't have to figure out and learn what it's like to have a device that's dead. And some of you probably have had kids who have dead devices, and they wind up learning the hard way in their hearts that it's good to be able to charge their devices when they're not using them. And if they don't, there's a consequence. So we want them to be responsible for that so that they know what happens when we don't charge. When they're off in college or beyond, they'll need to know how to do that and when to do that. So letting them start when they're younger is really helpful. How about setting timers or alarms, like waking them up in the morning? Who's going to do that? I want you guys, if you're third grade or older, you should be working on a plan for them to wake themselves up. I really think that they need to learn how to do that while they're in your house. And if they fail, they're going to have you around to help back them up, but you want to be able to maybe set 2 morning alarms if one morning alarm's not working, or one that has a snooze on it or something like that. Also, timers for doing things like going to bed or getting their chores done or whatever. They need to learn how to be able to remind themselves to do those things, and they can set their own timers and alarms to do that. A lot of us want to hover and helicopter the kids' homework schedule because the homework is often very intense for those of us, especially if we're in Silicon Valley, which many of you are. And if we're setting it all the time, they never learn how to pace themselves for when they do homework, for where they do homework. And they need to start doing that as soon as possible. You might come along and coach them and give them some advice or set up different little test programs to see what it is that they could do. That might be different if they're not being able to handle their homework on their own. It's okay to coach them, but sitting there, setting their homework schedule all the time for them is taking away the responsibility for how do they learn how to do that. One of the last ones that I'm going to talk about right now is packing sports gear or for music or whatever the activity is that they have. A lot of parents feel that they need to make sure that their kid has all of their quote unquote stuff in their backpacks or their sports bags or whatever. And if they get to the field or the music practice or the tutor or whatever and they don't have the right stuff, that it's going to be a big problem. So they helicopter and make sure that all the stuff's in the bag. But the problem is, again, you're not letting them be responsible. So I want you to back away, and we're going to talk more about how to do that. But I want them to be touching their backpacks and as well as their sports bags or their music bags or whatever it is that they need to pack themselves. I want you to work with them to learn what goes in the bag. You might have a little chart that says what the things are that go in the bag. You do whatever it is that you can externally so that they can look at a list or they can look at a set of pictures if they're really young and know what goes in that bag so that they wind up at the field or the practice with the right stuff. And if they don't, we're going to learn how to give them love and empathy so that they can learn and be responsible for their own stuff. So the problem with all of this, of course, is that they might fail. And I want you to let them fail. The younger they are, the better for them, and the more often, the better. Because as we allow failures, they're going to build confidence in their ability to get to the other side of whatever the failure was. And internally in their heart, they will be able to absorb what it was that happened and be able to, with your love and empathy alongside that, have a growth mindset that allows them to know that if they do hit a failure, they're able to use their brain to grow in their knowledge so that they don't do that thing again. Like if they forget their homework in their backpack and you come along, you allow it, you see it sitting on the table as they're getting into the car with dad, and you're not going to run after them and give it to them because they already know where the homework is supposed to have been stored. It's supposed to have been stored in their backpack after they finished it, but for some reason they didn't care and they didn't do it. And so they get to school and their teacher asks where the homework is and they go like, oh my gosh, I forgot it. And that forgetting will allow them, if I don't start saying like, oh my God, it was on the table, and like start yelling at them when they get home from school, or they try calling me and saying, Mom, rush to school and give me my homework. It's like, I can give them love and empathy so that their mind grows so that the next time they're doing their homework, they can say to themselves, instead of mom saying anything or dad, they can say to themselves, is there anything else I have to do that might impact my life? My homework's here. Where does my homework go? It goes in my backpack. We allow them to take responsibility for that because as they fail, they understand that there's a problem and that they can solve it by the next day bringing their homework to school or getting their sports equipment straightened out before they leave the house, that kind of stuff. And most schools these days teach this concept of a growth mindset. And as you allow the kids with love and empathy to fail, we're not setting them up for failure. We're just, after they fail, we come along with love and say like, wow, that must have been hard. Gosh, I wonder what you could do differently. Would you like to talk about it? All of those loving things allow their brain to stay open and online so that you can have a discussion about what they could do in the future to work around that. It's so fabulous when you can work and allow your child the confidence to know that, it's just a blip on the radar. They're going to get over it. And as they get over it, the next time they hit something, it's like, oh, I'm just going to get over it. I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to have my mom and dad to help me, love me through it. If I need some ideas, they're around to help me. So, but the whole point here is that none of that I told you so. Like, I told you to put it in your backpack. I told you to put your cleats in. I told you to get your sports, clothes in the washing machine. None of that. It's just like, oh, wow, you're going to have to wear dirty basketball gear, basketball shorts and basketball shirts to your game today. Whoa, that's going to be kind of stinky. I love you. I know tomorrow you're going to get those clothes into the wash. That sounds way different. And it allows the kid to know that it was their responsibility to get the clothes into the wash, not mom's responsibility to nag them to get them into the wash. So how do you do it? How do you let them fail? Well, we have to stop rescuing them. We have to stop doing things for them. We have to stop finding things all the time. We need to stop reminding them. All those things, stop doing, finding, and reminding, it all has to do with that helicopter mindset. I have to admit, I am a recovering helicopter parent. I know all about being a helicopter because I was a really quote-unquote good one, which interfered with my son's ability to take care of his things when he got to middle school. Things were always disappointing because things kept going wrong. And he didn't have the confidence because I was running around in the background making things as perfect as I could out of love. But it's like it wasn't helping him learn how to be responsible for stuff. So he'd find somebody else to blame. And I needed to change that dynamic so that he knows that he's responsible and that he can handle his own successes. And if he hits a failure, he can keep going. So I needed to stop doing things for him. And I needed to stop finding things like, where's my shoes? Where's my basketball gear? Where's my music? Where's my whatever? Where's my backpack? Where's my water bottle? Don't we hate it? All this stuff about water bottles. They're losing them all the time. And we run around and buy new ones or give them old ones from somebody else in the family. It's like, no, they need to figure it out and they need to start being responsible because they're still going to graduate from college if they have these minor blips when they're in elementary and high school, but we need to be able to give them the confidence that they're able to do it. So here's what we're going to do. Right now we're going to talk about mistakes and failures. Every mistake isn't a bad mistake. Some of them are bad. Some of them are what we call unaffordable. And that's, in my mind, really, they're safety concerns. Like, is a life going to be threatened or someone going to be maimed or something like that? And then there's recoverable mistakes, which I call affordable mistakes. Let's go over a list of things. It's kind of a game I have of things that we're going to talk about that is it affordable or not affordable? And I want you to ask as I go through them what you think. If your child has a toy and they break it, whether it's a truck or a ball gets popped or something gets broken, is that affordable or unaffordable? I'm going to say it's affordable. Not that affordable meaning mom runs out and buys a new one, which is exactly what a helicopter parent would do. A drill sergeant parent would just yell and scream, I can't believe you popped that ball or you lost that, piece to the toy. It doesn't work now. We allow our child, we give them love and empathy and say, oh, wow, that ball popped. That's so sad. What are you going to do about it? And you might offer suggestions to your child that maybe they want to buy a new one with their own money. Maybe they're just going to use an old ball. Maybe they're not going to use a ball. It's up to them. they're going to be responsible for having broken that toy. And we might make them, if they broke somebody else's toy, we might make them use some of their own money to replace it. How about refusing to eat dinner? A lot of us are worried about our kids' food intake. And I want to say that it's an affordable mistake if they choose not to eat dinner because they're playing with their Legos or they're playing out back shooting hoops with their friends or something like that. And they're going to survive. They're not going to die of starvation. And so I want that to be an affordable mistake in your mind. Oftentimes I recommend to parents that they allow one food in their house that is always available 24/7. It might be something as simple as carrots or celery or jicama, something that's okay, it's kind of healthy, and it doesn't hit all the food groups or anything like that, but that's something that they could put in their tummy that is easy to get out and that they have full availability to get to that. But it wouldn't be having another dinner. It wouldn't be holding dinner for them. So I think it's an affordable mistake. Getting out of their car seat while driving. That's a safety consideration. So it would be an unaffordable mistake. How about totaling their tricycle, meaning they're not on it, but it's sitting in the driveway and mom or dad runs over it? Is that affordable or unaffordable? It's affordable. That tricycle won't be rideable anymore. You can't ride on it anymore. And you're going to be sad for your child to have lost that. But it's their responsibility. I'm assuming there's a family policy that we don't leave tricycles in the driveway. And they need to be responsible for doing that. I'm not going to nag them and stuff like that. And if it gets run over, I'm not going to try to run it over. But if an accident happens, it's going to be love and empathy so that they know that I'm not buying them a new one. I love them, but they could use some money to buy a new one or wait for their birthday or something like that. How about totaling their car at age 16? Affordable? Unaffordable? It's pretty controversial. Assuming that no one has been maimed or hurt or anything, assuming it's just fender bender, you can total a car with just fender benders and nobody getting actually hurt. But I want to say the affordable part of this, if no one's injured, is that you want them to learn from their mistake of being in a car. Sometimes it's not even their fault, but that has an accident. I want you to take them through the insurance. I want you to take them to the dealership to get or the auto repair place. I want you to be involving them in all of the aspects of what it takes to fix a car after it's been in an accident. It's a lot of work, and it's no fair that moms and dads run out and buy their kid a new car and don't have to have their kid understand what a big impact it is in life. You want to get them ready for adulthood, and it's a great opportunity if it happens to happen to you. You want to seize it so that they understand how complicated it all is. How about running across the street without looking? Unaffordable. We don't want anybody to get hurt or maimed. Eating too much candy and feeling sick? Affordable. Gulping down a gallon of vodka in college? I don't mean a gallon necessarily, but getting really, really drunk and drinking too much. I think it's affordable. If they really did that, they'd probably be in the ER. But I'm going to say that, they need to learn their limits and they will run into things. We don't want to encourage any of that behavior, but if they are doing stuff like that, they need to figure out how to be responsible. One of my friends, their son got so drunk he wound up being in an ambulance to the ER. And ERs and ambulances cost a lot of money. They're not really oftentimes part of a regular medical program in medical insurance. And the parent had to work with the kid. He was in college to be able to set up some payment plans so that he could pay for the ambulance, he could pay for the medical bills, because it wasn't mom and dad's responsibility. He was very much over 18 and it was a problem, and he needed to have help solving it, and they gave him love and empathy and helped him, came along coaching him how to set that up, but they didn't just pay off his bills. And they were very thankful that he was safe, but they allowed him to take responsibility for some of his poor decisions. How about forgetting to pick up toys? Affordable. Some parents have a family rule that they'll put toys that get left out in a box and the kid has to maybe pay in chores or something like that to get them out of the box. Some parents just donate anything that is on the floor in the wrong place. Staying up too late, affordable. It's not something you want the kids to do. Teasing their brother, affordable. I think there's a lot to be learned in people dynamics from having siblings in a household. It's not fun, and a lot of us get really worn out by sibling rivalry. But teasing another driver at age 18, unaffordable. You just don't know what crazy people can do on the other end. It wouldn't be something I would allow. Hitting another child, and I'm talking about like elementary school or something like that. I want to say unaffordable, but it's actually affordable. There's consequences to hitting another child, and you want them to understand what those consequences are when they're little and the hitting is little. I don't want you to encourage anybody to hit, but I want you to know that if you get caught, where your kid is biting other kids or hitting other kids, I want you to be able to work with the teachers and the other kids and try to solve the dynamic, because that usually happens when kids don't have the words to solve problems. And it's an affordable mistake. So what can we do? What can we do with these affordable mistakes when they are involved? And how do we want to allow our kids to be responsible? Because the responsibility for those things in their life and taking care of those things, that's what's going to encourage their resilience. So let's talk about what happens. What if they get angry when emotion is involved? When emotion is involved, whether it's them, blowing their top like this kid here, or if they're crying in a puddle, they're having a meltdown, you need to make sure that you're not getting angry as well as they, and that you're not being pulled down. And the way we do that is we're going to do something called going brain dead. And the way we do that is we're going to say something like, your kid is really upset that they left their homework and you're not bringing it to them. And you're going to just say, wow, this is so sad. I know. And they might start yelling at you and saying, oh, Mom, you're the stupidest mom on the entire planet. And you're like, I know. Like, You're going to try not to give them words to throw back at you, but you're going to make sure that your emotions stay with you and that they do not cross the boundary, so that the kid, what they're trying to do when they get really upset and they want you to be involved in their anger at themselves for having forgotten their homework or they're packed the wrong things for their sports events or whatever, is they want you to start arguing with them like, I told you should have put it in your bag and all that kind of stuff. It allows them to be mad at you for not completing whatever it was that they chose not to do. And so I need to make sure that my emotions stay like, I'm just going to say, oh, wow, it must be hard. Yeah, it's so hard. I can't believe that you want. I know. And you're just going to keep going brain dead. And when they're all activated like that, I call it that their brain is offline. When their amygdala is activated and their fight and flight center in their middle of their brain is on, it means their brain is shut down. They cannot think. They're offline. And their frontal lobe, their prefrontal lobe that makes all the good decisions, is closed for business. So we need to wait until their brain is online again, till they're calm, and then we can deal with the disrespect later. I totally believe in respecting parents and respecting adults in general, but the time to do that isn't when their brain is offline. We need to wait and just give them brain dead kind of comments like, oh, wow, yeah, I can't believe you're so stupid, Mom. It's like, yeah. And then an hour later, it might be a day later. For little kids, it might be 15 minutes later. You can say, that really hurt my feelings. Can we talk about that? So don't let them get away with the disrespect, but do not deal with the disrespect when the disrespect is happening, because their brain's offline. And you're not going to get anywhere. They're going to blame you instead. And we need them to take responsibility for their poor decisions. So when things do calm down, I want you to ask if they're ready to talk about it. Hey, are you ready to talk about what really was going on yesterday when you blew up at me? And you're going to wait. If they say no, they're not ready, you're going to wait another day. You're going to wait till Saturday. You're going to take them out for boba tea, and you're going to talk about it then. But you're not going to talk about it till they say, okay. Oftentimes parents find that when things calm down, their kid will actually come to them and say, I'm so sorry, Mom. I was so upset at my friend Sally for talking back to me. I just couldn't think. So we want to get to those nice points. The next skill I want to talk about, besides remembering to go brain dead so that our emotions aren't getting involved and they start blaming us, I want you to learn how to set loving limits. And in order to do that, you're going to state what it is that you will do. And the way you do that is you're going to make sure that you keep it positive and you're not going to lecture. You're going to do things like, I serve dinner to kids who have cleaned up their toys. That means that you're not going to serve dinner to anybody who hasn't cleaned up their toys. You might also put a new caveat, a double limit on it of like, I serve dinner to kids between 6 and 6:30 p.m. who have cleaned up their toys. And this is really giving them a choice. They're choosing whether or not to have dinner. I'm not withholding food by any means. I'm just telling them what the family limit is. It's like, and I'm being really nice about it. I'm communicating. They know what the policy is. I might have family meetings in order to make sure that my kids understand that these new rules are coming where we serve dinner between 6 and 6:30, and I serve dinner to kids who have cleaned up their toys or finished their homework or whatever. Another loving limit might be I read books at bedtime to kids who brush their teeth. A lot of people struggle with brushing teeth or washing face or taking a bath or whatever. Put on, you need to know what your kids' things are that make them happy, things they really want. That I call that currency. And for some little kids, the currency might be reading books at bedtime. For older kids, it might be something like, I take girls to the mall on the weekends to do shopping for birthday presents for their girlfriend's birthday party who've cleaned up their room. Could be really like that. Or I take girls shopping or boys shopping, or I take kids to the soccer field who've packed their soccer bag. And then when they're going like, Mom, we gotta go. It's like, oh, yeah, I take kids to the soccer field who pack their soccer bag because I can see that their soccer gear is all over. It's like, and you just lovingly say, oh, but Mom, we gotta go. It's like, oh, I know. I'm going to go brain dead. I'm not going to argue with. And they're like, I know. Let me know when you're ready. And it's like, but Mom, we're late. I'm like, I know. What a bummer. That must be hard. And it's like, yes, it's hard. It's like, I'm not going to react. And your kids aren't going to necessarily like it when you give those brain dead responses because you're being calm. They're used to you yelling or nagging and stuff like that. You're just going to go, wow, what a bummer. And I have parents who come to me and they say, my kids are getting so mad that I'm saying that all the time. Like, I know, because it works. So anyway, you're going to not lecture. You're just going to set those limits. And you're going to say, I do these things. I take kids to the park who have finished their homework. I take kids to the park who've put on their shoes. It's like, but we got to go. Billy's waiting in the park for me. It's like, I know. But I take kids to the park who put on their shoes. So you get the idea. The next skill I want to talk about, as we build responsible choices, like setting those limits, we let them be responsible for those boundaries. If they want to exceed them, there's consequences for that. The next thing I want to talk about is setting up choices. And kids just want to share control. It's just really obvious. They want control over their lives. Even when they're little toddlers or whatever, they want to say no all the time because they're so used to somebody pushing them around all the time. Because oftentimes we corner kids into a box. Go to bed now. Brush your teeth now. Brush your teeth. It's like, wouldn't it be nice if we set ourselves up that we don't get set into a corner either? We do things like, would you like to brush your top teeth first or your bottom teeth? It has to wake up their brains. And one of the things parents really need to do is constantly wake up our kids' brains so they don't get lazy, so that they know there's reasons to be thinking. And by asking a simple question like, would you like to brush the top teeth or the bottom teeth first? The kid has to go, I don't know. It's like, would you like to use the pink toothbrush or the blue toothbrush? I don't know. What is it we want as parents? We want them to brush their teeth. Would you like to take a bath first or would you like to brush your teeth first? I don't care. I want them to brush their teeth and take a bath. And same thing, like, would you like to do your homework right as you come home from school or would you like to have a snack first? I don't care as long as they're going to do their homework. And if they wind up not doing their homework and getting sidetracked, I might have a problem solving session of like, wow, I noticed that when we had snack first, you got so distracted you didn't come around to your homework. What can we do about that? So we're going to learn some problem solving techniques in the next couple of slides too. But the whole idea is that give them choices that are loving so that they can pick. Would you like to wear your jacket to school or would you like to put it in your backpack? I don't really care, do I? I would like them to have a jacket at school. Would you like to put your water bottle in your backpack or would you like to put it, would you like to carry it? I don't really care. I'd like them to have a water bottle. One parent recently said, my kid doesn't want a water bottle. I was like, what an interesting choice. It's like, would you like a water bottle or not want a water bottle? There are water fountains at schools. The principals always tell me when I give these presentations, they're always available. And what an interesting choice. Most of us went to school without a water bottle, and we use that crummy water fountain. And nowadays they have really nice water fountains that have filtered water and all that kind of stuff. But it's like we survived, and your kid's going to survive too. And you need to let them choose to someday get really thirsty, and like maybe they will decide in their own heart that they want to take a water bottle to school or to basketball practice or to soccer practice or music or whatever. They need to learn that they know the future is going to happen and they need some water. So let them own it. So do that. Secret though, only give choices you like. If you really want them to carry a water bottle, don't let them have the option to not carry it. I'd like you to consider like what's the consequence of them not having a water bottle. But if it really matters to you, like the example I gave with, do you want to carry your coat or put it in your backpack? If it really means a lot to you as a parent to have your kid have a sweater or coat in their backpack instead of because they won't wear it, fine. You can do it that way. Let's see what else. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to go on this little test drive now about different ways to allow them to take responsibility using some of the techniques that we just learned. So one is, if you forget to do your homework, what kind of ways can we make them be responsible for that? We can go brain dead so that we don't own it. We can give them empathy like, oh, wow, that's interesting that you didn't do that. I love you. I bet you'll figure it out. Do you need help? We need to remember to ask ourselves, whose homework is it? Because as we worry about homework being done or not being done, it means our kid doesn't have to worry about it. It means that the homework is mom's homework or dad's homework. And that is not good. And even if your kid right now, when you're listening to this, is in middle school, you need to step away and let them own it. You can come alongside them and coach them like, I notice how it's really hard for you to schedule your homework. Would you like to come up with some ideas about how that might work better? So it's not that we're going to abandon our kids, but we're going to let them know whose homework it is and make sure that we're not owning when they do it and how they do it, but we'll come alongside them to help them schedule it. How about getting a bad grade? What kind of responsibility is there? You can give empathy, like, wow, I wonder if that was the grade that you intended. We have to ask ourselves again, whose grade is it anyway? It's their grade. They need to care about it more than you. Because you know what happens if you care about it more? They don't have any reason to care because you're going to drag them through that math homework or spelling homework or AP history homework or whatever. And it's like they need to care because it's important to them and be responsible for that. How about not going to bed? You can give them empathy. You can not waking up. You can give them empathy as well. You can also set loving limits. Like I drive kids to school by 7:30 who wake up on time. And you can say what the on time was, who wake up by 7 a.m. But you allowing them to know what the limits are and how to help them wake up if they need it. How about not doing chores? Like, wow, that's so sad. You can give them empathy. You can set living limits. Like I drive kids to soccer practice who finish their homework, whatever it is, or doing their chores. Who take out the trash. It's like I do things for kids who do their chores. Talking back, well, there's the brain is offline, remember, when they're talking back to you often. They're not thinking. So sometimes we do need to wait and just give them empathy at the time and set loving limits. If emotions are involved, though, our limits might sound like, oh, I do this for kids who are treating me with respect. But just be careful of that brain offline problem. When you have situations where your kids have too much electronics and it's driving you crazy, you can set loving limits. You can use contracts. I totally think that families should set up family rules with consequences using contracts because as kids get older into middle and high school, it's really helpful. I want you, as parents of elementary school kids and middle school kids, please do not let your kids have their devices in their rooms from a really early age. Just set a policy. We charge things in public places. We use things in public places. You'll avoid a lot of headaches and heartaches in high school later if you do that. So what responsibilities can you encourage in your household? Any of those ideas floating around? Could it help? Because resilience is going to come from you letting your kids be responsible and for them occasionally failing and you being able to come alongside them to let them know that through a growth mindset, they can learn how to get over things and be able to keep moving on. If you need help, there's plenty of help. There's my Parenting Decoded podcast, plenty of stuff online, as well as my YouTube videos like this one, where you can learn different skills. If you have teens, there's a teen. If you have problems with anger, that being a calm parent, solving tantrums, all those things are really helpful. And, feel free to email me anytime. And you can sign up for my newsletter. Thanks so much for listening. I hope this has been helpful to you. Have a great day.